Welcome to Notepad Special. This is Budget 2022. My name is Ibrahim Sani. We're broadcasting live from the All Asia Broadcasting Centre here in Bukit Jalil. We've had a few hours now to digest the issues surrounding the budget. There were a lot of interesting conversations revolving around what the budget means to a lot of people, but the central theme remains on how is the government going to raise the necessary funds or revenues to supplement the budgetary requirements and the budgetary spend that is going to cost us about 333 billion ringgit, pardon me. And of course, another issue or another central theme that is surrounding the Budget 2022 presentation, of course, is on control, support, monitoring, and the special Jawatan Kuasa Khas or the special committee that will be chaired by the Prime Minister and that will be supervised by the Finance Ministry on the execution of the budget delivery towards its targeted recipients. So all this and more will be unpacked over the next half an hour or so. We might even go extra to make sure that we cover all the bases required. Joining us on the line is Theresa Goh, the Deloitte Tax Executive Director. Theresa, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank
you for having me back here.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the last time we spoke was this time last year, and I you know, eventually I have to get you in on this show a lot more frequent. But generally speaking, let's get into the whole mood or the whole idea of your early reactions towards the budget presentation. How did you find this year's budget?
I suppose it is a lot to my expectation, but in some ways, probably not, right? But I guess this is I've been reading the pre-budget statement, the 12 Malaysia plan, and it's exciting time for us because the next 10 years will take us, on the Shared Prosperity Vision 2030. And the 12 Malaysia plan is the first half, right, of the implementation. So, well, I guess the pandemic has hit us hard, right? Just like for every other government as well. And it's slowed growth, it's increased the inequality, etc. And the government has really got no choice but to really look after the people first, right? And then, try to get as many of the businesses, on a recovery mode, so that we can get back to things pre-COVID level.
Of course, the idea, right now is to explore the some of the items, including personal tax reliefs that has been announced. Would you like to go through some of them?
Yes, I would. But before that, I think there's one more point that I would like to add. It was quite concerning, when in the papers you read a lot about introducing new taxes, whether it's capital gains tax or wealth tax, all sorts of taxes that people were talking about. And of course, in order to introduce any major taxes in Malaysia, you've really got to, in Malaysia or any other country, you need to really carefully consider it, have an in-depth study, right? And it should be relatively simple as well, and shouldn't impose, very undue compliance costs on the taxpayers, and also disproportionate administrative burden on the authorities. So some of these taxes that were bandied around, well, they were not exactly there. So I'm quite glad that the government is able to deliver Budget 2022 without the introduction of major new taxes, except for the prosperity tax, as we call it.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that is very key, and of course the central theme is of course towards the recovery of it. But certain items are indeed indicative of a policy towards a shift towards greener economy. For instance, the new individual tax relief of up to 2,500 ringgit to be introduced for the purchase, installation, leasing, subscription of EV, charging facilities for year of assessment for next year and the year after that, 2023, scope of tax relief for medical expenses for serious diseases in respect of self, spouse and child to be expanded, to be included checkup or consultation services in respect of mental health. These are good items that needs to be introduced, but of course, like I mentioned earlier, it's a signal. It's a signal towards government wanting to have healthier Malaysians, both physically and mentally healthy Malaysians adopting greener technology. Do you feel that this is a slow policy shift towards those items, or it's a one-off thing just to be expected out of a budget for that particular year?
No, I think it is slowly going towards a policy shift, right? But we probably can't do it right now. Hopefully next year, if we see the economy recover, then we'll probably see more of this, right? So, of course, in terms of relief, some of those that you mentioned, the deduction for EPF contributions for those in the gig economy, self-employed, I think that's a good thing as well, yeah, towards pension. And I think it's a reminder to all as well. I think two things that sometimes we forget to claim when it comes, to the time of filing your tax return, and that is purchase of mobile phones, computers, tablets, with more people working from home, and you need to buy some of these items. The special relief has been extended, right? So you have until 31st of December 2022. But do remember to keep your receipts and to make the claims. I think another one is actually for domestic tourism, right? All the tour packages, hotel stays, etc. Well, it's not much. It's 1,000 ringgit of relief, but that's extended till December 2022 as well. But many of us, we do this and then we forget to claim at the end of the year. So to remember these things. I think in terms of reliefs, the ones that were a bit disappointing was a lot of people were asking for work from home kind of allowance or deduction or something, because definitely those who work from home would definitely have to incur more electricity, right? Air conditioning, lights on, for longer hours than even when you are in the office. So like in Australia, they give an hourly rate of allowance. So hopefully, maybe we can't afford it this year, right? We're already at the deficit budget as well. So hopefully next year, there will be, opportunity for this relief to be introduced as well.
There's also that additional tax relief for purchase of mobile phone, computer and tablet of 2,500 ringgit to be extended into next year. Do you feel that this is not enough? You feel that hourly, I guess, consumption of electricity and the likes is a lot more important to be discussed on top of the fact that we need to get tax relief for purchase of computers and stuff like that?
Yes, because not everybody will be buying computers every year, right? Some are using their office computers, but but the electricity and all, everybody will be incurring that anyway.
All right. Let's move on to the other topic that I want to focus on, which is on the removal of tax exemption of foreign income remitted into Malaysia. What was the thinking you feel went behind this particular policy?
I guess it's one of those ways for us to collect more taxes, right? So where this basis of taxation is concerned, so we are using a territorial basis, but not only territorial, but plus remittance basis as well. So whatever we earn in Malaysia is taxed here. Whatever you earn outside Malaysia, foreign income, if it's remitted into Malaysia, it is also subject to tax. But we have given this exemption, right? And foreign income remitted into Malaysia has been exempt from tax, except for banking, insurance, shipping, air transport, right? But otherwise, for everybody else, it has been tax exempt. So now I think the amendment is, if it is remitted, foreign income, if it's remitted, it will be taxed. If it's not remitted, then it won't be taxed, right? So then I guess the question here is, what is foreign income? Okay, there have been disputes with the Inland Revenue about what foreign income is. So what is foreign income? I think that is one of the big questions, right? So when you provide services offshore, so are those services considered as foreign source income? Disputes have been had with IRB, right? So that's one of the issues. I think the other one is like simple cases. I think a lot of Malaysians would have bank accounts overseas. Mostly, the nearest for us, of course, is Singapore.
There's a lot of Malaysians. There would be some Malaysians, but I don't know whether there's a lot of Malaysians on the account.
Yes. Not only accounts overseas, like in Singapore and other countries. So then the question is, what do they do? What have they been doing with the interest, right? So previously, if they have brought the interest back, it's no problem because it's exempt. But now it will be taxable, no longer exempt. So you need to declare this in the tax return. So the question is, how will IRB know, right, whether you bring the money in or not, right? In the first place, we have this common reporting system, and every year, financial institutions in most of the countries in the world have to report, right, to their tax authorities, and tax authorities will do this automatic exchange of information, with the country that you are resident in. So the Malaysian Inland Revenue Board has been receiving information about, your bank accounts, right? If your bank accounts in other countries, BVI, Australia, anywhere, all this information has been received by IRB. So RB can start asking you questions. But I know you've got these 10 accounts overseas, right? So, so what's happened to the interest? What have you done with it, right? And not only bank accounts, but also on assets, on shares, and other things as well. So then it's a question of, is it foreign income? Is it capital gain? That will be another question, right? So if you remit it, then that will be taxable. So I think a lot of changes, but I guess we don't really have a lot of choice, right? Because we're in the EU grey list, right? It's because if our foreign source income, if it's not remitted and it's not taxable, so in terms of tax avoidance and everything, I mean, that is going to be tough. It's not remitted to Malaysia, but in the other country, if it's also not taxed, then it's in no man's land and nobody taxes it. So that has been the issue.
All right, I see your baby.
So
I see your baby crawling in the background just now, but this is the reality of things, right? When we work from home. But
yeah,
but no, I mean, my kids actually ran behind me one time when I was doing live from home. That's why I can appreciate the kind of environment that you're working in. One other item before we go into the break is of course prosperity tax and of course RPGT. Maybe we can touch on RPGT a little bit later, but yes, the prosperity tax element. How do you feel about that when it comes to this budget?
Okay, so before I talk about prosperity tax, I think one good tip for everyone. So if you're going to remit all your foreign income, right, do it before or do it by 31st of December this year, right? Because the effective date is 1st of January 22. Okay, so please take note of that. Okay, prosperity tax. Well, my take is, yes, the government needs to collect more revenue, right, to fund, all these additional expenses and so on. Where's the money going to come from, right? Tax revenue collection has been down. Okay, so where is it going to come? It's got to come from somewhere. So I guess if you look at things, then, well, we can say that, well, that's a good one in the sense that, well, if they have made extra profits, then hopefully they don't mind paying a little bit more tax. But the question is a little bit more, how much is okay, right? But in this case here, it's 24 to 33%, right? So chargeable income above 100 million, you are taxed at 33% instead of 24%. That is a 9% increase. Okay, so good thing is only for 1 year. Yeah, that's for year of assessment 2022. But I think people will still feel it, right? So I have yet to check with my client how they feel about this 9% increase in tax. But I guess they have to just to look at it as, since they've had windfall profits, they shouldn't mind then contributing to the community. Yeah, not so much to the government, but it goes back to the community, especially those who really need it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to go for one short break. When we come back, we'll discuss a little bit more about prosperity tax and RPGT. That's coming up after these messages.
Let's go.
Ayuh keluarga Malaysia, kita bulatkan tekad dan bersatu hati untuk terus memelihara serta mempertahankan kedaulatan negara. Sebagai keluarga Malaysia yang besar, kita harus bertoleransi dalam semua perkara. Hormat menghormati serta mengekalkan perpaduan rakyat yang berbilang kaum, agama dan bangsa serta integrasi nasional silang budaya adalah tunjang kekuatan kita sebagai sebuah negara bangsa yang berjaya. Umpama selembar benang dikait, ditenun dan dijalin, akhirnya menjadi kain yang sempurna indah.
Amanah di tangan kita.
adat, budaya dan semangat menjadi kesinambungan perpaduan tanah air yang tercinta. Berteraskan adab yang terpahat di jiwa dan raga. Marilah bersama.
Goh, Tax Executive Director at Deloitte. Theresa, real property gains tax or RPGT will revert to 0% for individuals for disposals in the 6th year onwards. This is surely going to be celebrated by a lot of people. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I think it's a very welcome move, right? But just note that the effective date is 1st of January next year. So if you are going to sell anything, just wait till 1st of January, right? It's just a few months only, all right? And if you are selling in the 5th year, the RPGT rate is 15%. So yeah, just wait one more year to save the 15% tax.
One of the bigger items, of course, is the tax losses during the pandemic. You know, we keep on talking about taxing the dark economy or the shadow economy, bringing more digital light into it to make sure that, you know, we capture a lot more tax revenue or tax base. But on top of that, we now have to contend with tax losses during the pandemic. How do you feel about this when it comes to this year's budget?
Yeah, as you know, in the past, we were able to carry forward the tax losses indefinitely. Yeah, but we've had this law now that was introduced, and our losses are capped at 7 years. So if they're not utilized, right, 7 years after they are incurred, then they expire. You can't use them anymore. All right. So so the good thing is, if the losses are incurred from 2019 onwards, right, you are allowed to carry forward for 10 years instead of just 7 years. And it looks like this could be a permanent feature because they are allowing losses as at 2018, which have yet to be utilized and which have not expired. They are allowing these losses, that are there as at 2018 to be carried forward to 2025, to 2028, sorry. So you have 10 years. Yeah, so the 7 years has been changed to 10 years. So that's a lot better because during the pandemic, we don't know how long this is going to stretch, right? So if you have losses during these years, whether you'll be able to make sufficient profits to utilize all the losses during the pandemic years or not. So I think 10 years will give businesses a much better chance.
There's also the idea of sales tax exemption on cars other than EV, sales tax exemption CKD 100%, CBU 50% passenger cars, including that of MPVs and SUVs. This will be extended until middle of next year. Again, is this an idea of trying to get the market a little bit more aggressive, trying to get a lot of buying and selling happening amongst each other, just like how we saw with the RPGT exemption to zero?
Yeah, I think it's a dual purpose, I guess, to benefit the rakyat as well. Yeah, although the discounts are really not that great, like a $150,000 car savings probably about 6,000. Yeah, $50,000 car probably only about 1,500 ringgit. But I guess every bit helps, right? Especially during this time. I think the second reason is actually to stimulate the economy as well. I've got clients in this industry. And during the pandemic, their sales dropped by 50%. Yeah, some of them. Of course, we have cars that are quite popular, right? Local cars like Produa, Ativa, Myvi, Proton, and so on, right? So these are quite popular and very much in demand. And that's another problem as well. Because of the FMCO, there was a shutdown, right, of the automotive, the assembly plants and all that. So the demand, the supply cannot meet demand, right? And because of the plant shutdown, it makes things worse. And not just local cars, but also, the CBU, completely built up cars that are imported as well. Because this phenomena doesn't affect Malaysia only, but other countries as well. So I guess if you look at it, you try to go and buy a car, they will tell you out of stock, right? So then the question is, will the stock come in by the extended date, 6 months, right? We have 6 months. So by June of next year, will the stock come in or not? So I guess this is a good move, but I'm not sure whether 6 months is enough because they already have a backlog, in terms of orders and so on, at least for some of the automotive companies.
There's also that big, I wouldn't say problem, a big thing for us to think about, which is, of course, the pseudo windfall tax. We've seen how the government have introduced an introduction of a 33% marginal income tax bracket for companies on chargeable income of more than 100 million ringgit for the year of assessment 2020 2022 only, but this is, of course, on top of a scalable amount of chargeable income tax bracket as well. Do you feel that this is going to discourage, I guess, companies from declaring income, at least for the year of assessment 2022? Or do you feel that this is actually quite an okay kind of introduction to allow for the companies to remain productive? Before you answer, there is a statement coming in from the Minister in charge of Economic Affairs, Tokpa, Datuk Seri Mustafa Muhammad, basically talking about this form of tax is better when it comes to the climate of investors. Do you agree with such a view? Generally speaking, what is your view on the marginal income tax bracket for companies on chargeable income of more than 100 million ringgit at 33%? Theresa, do we have you?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I thought you were going to show the statement or something like that.
Oh, no,
okay.
no.
All right.
That's a good one. No.
Okay.
Yeah. That
All
was
right.
it. That was the
yeah.
only thing I have for you. Yes, go on.
Right. Okay. So I think where these companies are concerned, they are reputable companies, right? And they have grown very big, especially during the pandemic, right? The revenue numbers and their profits. I know the profits have definitely gone up double digit for some of them or most of them as well. And I think because they are reputable companies, I don't think they will try to underdeclare. And many of these are listed companies as well, right? So I don't think they will do that. I think they will be good taxpayers and, just, bite the bullet and pay up the tax. Well, they have to make the profits, right? So if they do make bumper profits, then share, with others who are less fortunate.
Okay,
They may not be too happy about it, but I don't think they will try to underdeclare.
Okay, that's the main crux of the topic that I want to get at. Under declaration is going to be whether or not that's going to be a reality. We're going to go for one short break. When we come back, we'll discuss about the issue of SST amendments, particularly when it comes to sales tax on low-value goods. That's coming up after these messages.
Untuk kebaikan keluarga, Breeze Triple Boost teknologi baharu berkesan membasmi virus, membersihkan kotoran degil,
Ayuh keluarga Malaysia, kita bulatkan tekad dan bersatu hati untuk terus memelihara serta mempertahankan kedaulatan negara. Sebagai keluarga Malaysia yang besar, kita harus bertoleransi dalam semua perkara. Hormat menghormati serta mengekalkan perpaduan rakyat yang berbilang kaum, agama dan bangsa serta integrasi nasional silang budaya adalah tunjang kekuatan kita sebagai sebuah negara bangsa yang berjaya. Umpama selembar benang dikait, ditenun dan dijalin, akhirnya menjadi kain yang sempurna indah.
Ayo kita zahirkan impian bersama, menjunjung semangat yang bernama.
Welcome back. This is Budget 2022 Notepad Special. On the line, we have Theresa Goh, the Tax Executive Director at Deloitte. Theresa, there are some items that we need to discuss about, particularly when it comes to sales tax. But before that, there's also that tourism tax exemption that is going to be extended up until end of next year, and all the other items revolving around services such as entertainment duty exemption on all entertainment activities, including that of theme park, service tax to be imposed on charges for the delivery of goods, including those from e-commerce operators, and of course, the big item, sales tax to be imported on imported low-value goods sold online and couriered to customers in Malaysia and I don't know whether I got this right, from 1st January 2023. What's your take on all this?
Well, I guess we have to find a way to collect more tax, right? So there've got to be other avenues as well. So so when you talk about the low value goods, previously the threshold was 500. Anything below 500, we don't have to worry.
Yeah.
So all our online purchases, I mean, this is a good pastime for many people nowadays, right? Online shopping. So anything below 500, it's fine. You don't have a tax. But then now there's going to be a tax, and the sales tax is at 10%. So whatever you're going to buy online, if it's below 500 ringgit, remember there's a 10% sales tax. Now the question is the threshold. Is the government going to impose a threshold, and what is this threshold going to be? What is the amount going to be like? It can't be a $10 item, right? Going to be subject to sales tax as well. And I think the important thing is that how do you pay this sales tax? Who is going to collect this sales tax? So the foreign seller who's selling it to you would have to register with our customs, collect the tax, and then remit the tax to customs, right, on all the sales to Malaysian customers. That's going to be quite a lot of administrative work, I think, for the foreign sellers. Yeah, and as to how they are going to comply and whether they will comply or not, I think depends on the size of the business that they have.
There's also that greater focus towards digital ecosystem and taxation there. Incentives for activities under the Digital Ecosystem Acceleration Scheme, or DSAC, includes digital technology providers, 0% to 10% income tax rate for up to 10 years new companies, or 10% for up to 10 years existing companies. We're looking at digital infrastructure providers, things like investment tax allowance of up to 100% on qualifying capex for the next 10 years. These items, again, we're on the mood of trying to see where we can tax more. This is on the digital, I guess, space. But of course, when we talk about the health space, there's a conversation on taxing, not conversation, there's an instruction actually in Budget 2022 on taxing vape manufacturers, sugar tax. This is not only a good thing for the government, it's also, in the short term, it's also a good thing for the government in the long term, where we really have to start thinking about how to manage nicotine products as well as sugary products. So now we're looking at clearly two areas, digital and health. Do you feel that this is the right way forward when it comes to the government trying to expand that tax revenue base?
Yes, I think this is definitely a good way, right? It will bolster health awareness. It will reduce NCDs, non-communicable diseases like obesity, diabetes, and so on. And you notice that the tax, I think this is a little bit more expensive because the earlier sugar tax is 40 cents per litre. But for these type of drinks, chocolate, cocoa, malt, coffee, tea mix, etc., it's 47 cents per 100 grams. Okay, so probably it appears to be a little bit higher.
Yeah, of course, then we have to now talk about the strategies on increasing tax revenue. And I'm not talking about targeting certain sectors like digital or health. I'm actually talking about GST. I was actually waiting for some indication of some hint or clue that GST might kick in. I've been speaking to you every time a budget kicks in for the past, I don't know, Theresa, I mean 4 years, maybe 5 years. And GST has been in and out of a conversation. And, we had conversations when GST was there. We had conversations when GST isn't there. Clearly this is one of those kind of conversation. What's the take? What's the feel like on introducing GST in the near future?
I guess one of the things, when you talk about the right timing to introduce, to bring back GST, in our local scenario, I guess elections would be one of those things. The other one is maybe allowing the economy to recover a little bit. But actually, a lot of it are myths as to what people believe about GST. When we reintroduce GST, price of goods going to increase and all that. I mean, that's not really the case, right? So because the business doesn't suffer from the GST, they've got input tax, output tax, they just pass it on to the end consumer. And if every level that's the case, then there is it doesn't make the price of goods more expensive, all right? So hopefully, they will be able to think about that, because if you talk about a sustainable revenue base, right, then you need to really broaden the tax base, and GST is one of the ways that we can do that. And of course, we miss the revenue as well, right? 2017 was 44 billion. And if you look at SST, I think our projections are only in the 20s, right? 24, 28. in 2019, right? 2021, 24 billion, right? So it's not, nearly there. And if you talk about casting the net wide, we had 400,000 registrants, under GST. But under SST, we only had 65,000. So there's a huge difference there. So hopefully, when they do a study and really seriously look at the tax reform, they will consider this and hopefully bring it back sooner rather than later.
There is also that big idea of other tax incentives that can be discussed, including the implementation of tax identification numbers for all companies and individuals above 18 years of age from the year 2022. This, of course, befuddles me. How come we haven't had one yet before? Why is 2022 a good year to start introducing the implementation of a tax identification number?
Actually, this was proposed in our budget, I think, 2 years ago. It's just, I think one of the things that you mentioned, a lot of good things mentioned in the budget, but then it's a question of implementation, right? How soon, how fast do we get down to doing it? Because the identification number, many other countries have already got that done. So for us, we are still behind, and that's one good way to really expand our tax base. So if everybody has a TIN, tax identification number, and you can't do any business without quoting that number, then that's where we can catch everybody. So if you want to buy property, sell property, the buyer's TIN number, the seller's TIN number has got to be included in the contract as well. When you file the RPG to return, the number will be there. So anything that you do and requiring TIN number even to be in the invoice, right? So in that way, you can try, to really bring everybody back into the net.
Fantastic. One more short break before we conclude our conversation with Theresa Goh of Deloitte.
When the world was changing for photographic film, we helped change the world as a pioneer of the digital age. In healthcare, we're expanding what's possible with advanced technology. But why stop there when we can focus our AI and IoT expertise on business innovation, helping tackle some of the toughest challenges in the workplace? When it comes to innovating for a healthier world and a more sustainable society, we'll never stop. Fujifilm, value from innovation.
Membuatku bimbang. Lupakan penulen udara lama. Sekarang, kerisauan bukanlah pada habuk dan debu sahaja. Hello Virus Fit. Menapis habuk dan debu dengan penapis 8 peringkat semua dalam satu. Dan menghapuskan virus bawaan udara dengan All Clean.
SK Magic, All Clean Virus Fit. Elakkan virus, Hello Magic. SK Magic.
Kehidupan orang memang susah, tak ada pekerjaan, semua serba kekurangan. Jadi mereka mengharapkan bantuan luar.
Honor 50. Mencipta tambahan ketika cetusan inspirasi. Perincian teliti di depan mata. Persediaan rakaman pantas. Honor 50, keindahan dengan satu tangkapan.
Welcome back. On the line is Theresa Goh, Deloitte Tax Executive Director. Theresa, taking a step back, having a little bit of a macro view, Budget 2022 does touch upon quite an interesting set of, or an array of things. But the control measure is also quite interesting. Tengku Zafrul mentioned that there is a special committee to look at the delivery of the budget. And pardon my ignorance, but before this, we've never had these kind of committees to see budget delivery, or is this something that is quite routine?
It seems to be something new, and it seems to be quite structured as well. So hopefully, every dollar that's targeted for the groups that need it will actually, go down to the people, right? And that will not be any leakages. I think that's the most important thing, especially like for schools and all that, right? I see a huge allocation. Like you said, the highest allocation is actually for education, and that's for improvement of schools and all that. So let's hope that, the money is really, really going to be spent, for that purpose. Yes. And that, this committee, will actually do the right thing and make sure that things get done quickly as well, right? And not like next budget, and then you see that a lot of things still have not been done. Yeah. So I think that's one very important thing.
Actually, it's also important for us to take a look back into budget 2021, whether or not the allocations have been given out accordingly. There are some commentators on this channel earlier, previous to our show right now, they were questioning whether or not the MCO delayed or obfuscated in terms of the delivery of the kind of assistance needed. But there isn't any kind of, I guess, review papers to show how Budget 2021 performed. Do you share those views with our earlier commentators?
I think so, but Tengku Zafrul said that this time there's going to be transparency, right? There's going to be transparency, there's going to be public accountability, right, of whether the money actually goes out and how much actually goes out, right? So hopefully, it will be different, and hopefully it will appeal to the conscience of the people who are administering all these funds, right? Because the funds, revenue is so difficult, right? Collection, it's so difficult. Tax revenue and other revenue is so difficult to come by, and we are incurring a deficit. We are having higher debt and everything just to support the people. So whatever money that is intended for the people must go to the people. So we hopefully, we will appeal to the conscience of these people to make sure that nobody takes anything along the line, right? Every single dollar gets to benefit the people. In that case, I think the lives of the people will definitely be made a lot better.
Yeah, and a few final words from you as well. But the year 2022 is not going to be easy for many of us. How do you think we should move forward when it comes to managing our own personal finance?
I think before I talk about our own personal, I would like to talk about companies as well. So I would like to appeal to corporations. Although your profits may be lower than pre-COVID, right? But do think about others as well. And this is a very good opportunity to actually share. And one way to share the profits is actually to provide employment opportunities, right? So in the budget, there are a number of incentives given, right, for employers to take on interns, to rehire all sorts of different groups of people and so on. So I would encourage, whether you need the people or not, provide them an opportunity to be employed. It may not be really a big cost to you, but to the people who has a job, especially those who have lost their jobs and they're the sole breadwinner, it would make a lot of difference in their lives.
Fantastic.
On the personal side, I think we just have to be vigilant and continue to stay safe, right? To be prudent in our spending as well, but I guess to live with hope, right? I think the most important thing for a person is hope, right? So that we don't, when we lose hope, then we go into depression, and all the other problems associated with it. So that's not a good thing.
Okay, Theresa, like I said, there's a lot of items that we did not manage to get to talk. Dr. Vrinderjit Singh basically highlighted that there's still a lot of items that deficit, funding the deficit, tax changes going forward, Fiscal Responsibility Act, all this, of course, are important and critical issues. But we will, on this channel, at least on my show, we will be exploring this, at least Dr. Vrinderjit Singh himself. But for now, Theresa, thank you very much for your thoughts. And again, there's a lot of things that will be discussed over the next few days. And of course, we're just getting to the tip of the iceberg into what was being presented. There's a lot of discussions on how we can move forward, including, for instance, the assistance towards women, the assistance towards B40 girls, the support that is going to be given for the police at the D11 section that investigates special vice. Those are the kind of items that will be going through over the next few days, if not weeks. But for now, thank you, Theresa Goh. That was Theresa Goh, Deloitte Tax Executive Director. If you've missed any part of this show, just head on to astroawani.com. You can also find us on the app as well as the podcast app on Shock. That is an app that we have just rolled out for you to explore the kind of podcasts that you can get there. Theresa, thank you very much. And for all of you, have a good weekend ahead. My name is Ibrahim Sani. Until the next time.